This is 7 News with Karina Carvalho.
Good evening. Welcome to this special edition of 7 News as we track Cyclone Alfred. The Category 2 system is on a collision course with Australia's east coast. Tonight, more than 4 million people are in the firing line over a 500-kilometre stretch of coast from Noosa to Grafton. There is an evacuation warning in place for Lismore right now. Residents are being told to get out now. They have until 9 p.m. to get to higher ground. And 10,000 homes and businesses in northern New South Wales are without power. The cyclone is on track to impact the coast from tomorrow afternoon through to Saturday morning. Right now, it's just 200 kilometres off the coast. We have 7 News meteorologist Jane Bunn analysing the latest information, and we'll bring you every development as it happens. Let's go straight to Lismore, where residents now have less than half an hour to leave. Here's Angelique Opie with the latest from northern New South Wales.
Well, this media briefing here near Lismore has just finished, and a sign of how quickly things have escalated. The Premier and SES commander telling locals here they need to leave by 9 o'clock tonight. Lismore CBD and several streets near the river must evacuate because routes to safety may become closed. Residents are directed to the nearest evacuation centre at Southern Cross University in East Lismore. Residents are also being urged to take their own bedding to that evacuation centre. It's estimated 7,000 people are right now getting ready to go. The message from authorities is do not underestimate this storm.
We cannot guarantee a boat for every house in the flood evacuation zone. So we can't guarantee that in the event of a major overflow of these rivers, particularly overnight. So the way to keep yourself and your family safe, particularly in the next few hours, is to evacuate before 9 p.m. We couldn't be clearer about that.
There are more than 10,000 people without power. That situation is also evolving. We've heard from some extraordinarily resilient residents today in Lismore who have survived the 2022 flood, but they're staring down another devastating one. You can only imagine how they are doing as we speak.
Angelique Opie reporting there, and we will keep you up to date with that unfolding situation around Lismore throughout the hour. Let's head to Steve Titmus on the Gold Coast now. Steve, it's pretty rough where you are. What's the latest on the ground?
Yeah, good evening, Karina. Good evening, everyone. It is getting pretty rough at the moment, as was just reported there, that Cyclone Alfred is off the coast. However, he is starting to be felt right now on the Gold Coast. The winds have increased dramatically in the past couple of hours. Also, the rain that, of course, we have been expecting is starting to now fall very heavily. I'm currently here outside the Southport Surf Lifesaving Club. Now, this club is in real sort of trouble because the beaches along here at the Gold Coast, erosion is massive. Outside the club here now, it is about a 7-metre drop from where the beach once was, that it's now been eroded away by the waves that have been smashing into the coast over the past couple of days. And now for a stretch of several kilometres, we're seeing this incredible 7-metre drop all the way past the surf clubs, right up to past the Marina Mirage. Earlier on this afternoon, I had a chat to a gentleman who said he hadn't seen anything like this in the past 50 years.
No, I haven't actually been on the coast 51 odd years. Last cyclone that came down, I think, as far south as Brisbane. Roughly, we saw some erosion, but nothing like this. This is just, nothing I've seen before.
Really is a difficult situation. It really is now a difficult situation that we've got. A past president, David Mainwaring of the Southport Surf Lifesaving Club, told me a little earlier in 7 News at 6 that he doesn't know what the future of the club is going to be because they can't get their boats into the water with how the beach is at the moment. The big fear, though, is that what is going to happen once Cyclone Alfred hits. He will hit hard. What will then happen is that more of this beach here will get eroded. The good news is that there is a thing called an A-wall that exists along the coast here. So once the sand, which is about another 15 feet before it reaches that, hopefully, if that sand all goes, the A-wall will stop it going any further and going into the car park that is over here at the moment. As you can see, Karina, the rain is now starting to pelt down. The wind has dropped slightly in the past 20-odd minutes, but perhaps People should not be complacent about it, though. That happened earlier on today, and then the big winds came. So the bit at the moment is really that everybody in all the towers here at Main Beach and at Southport are doing their final preparations and getting ready for Cyclone Alfred. The same will be happening in all the suburbs across the Gold Coast, because come tomorrow morning and the next day, Cyclone Alfred will hit, and we will then end up with probably a very disastrous situation. How much damage is going to be done, we don't know. I, for one, who live in a high-rise here just a couple of kilometres away, it's a little bit scary. You don't know what is in fact going to happen. We've cleared our balconies. We've done all we can do. We've taken note of the authorities. We've taken the advice. But what damage is going to be done, we don't really know. The Gold Coast and southeast Queensland is now bracing itself for Cyclone Alfred.
Yeah, it really is scary, and hopefully everyone there heeds those calls to stay out of the water as well. Steve Titmus, stay safe. Well, let's get the latest from the Queensland capital. Marlena Wapp is live in the Brisbane suburb of Cleveland. Marlena, how many homes could be impacted there?
Yeah, potentially hundreds, Karina, but we've just seen some updated modelling from the Brisbane City Council tonight. Already tens of thousands of homes were on that list for a storm surge risk once Cyclone Alfred crosses the coast. Hundreds more homes have been added tonight. That list is long, the area vast, so people have been doing a lot of sandbagging, just like here at this businesses too, doing what they can, putting the sandbags in, putting furniture up as well. The storm surge risk here as well as around the Redlands, where police have been door knocking homes and making sure that people are prepared for what's to come. We've still seen a lot of people out tonight having a look at things, even though it's dark, but conditions are expected to deteriorate over the next 24 hours. Brisbane Airport today, flights in and out were cancelled. Qantas, Virgin, Jetstar making that call. Logistically, they have to think about where to put their planes. They want to move them off the tarmac so they're not sitting there when those damaging winds arrive. So that's been a challenge for a lot of people. A lot of travellers caught off guard. They were trying to get out of southeast Queensland, get home to regional Queensland. Now, some of them are going to be stuck here. They'll be trying to book into a hotel to ride out the cyclone. Across the city, a lot of homes have done that sandbagging. They've been boarding up and taping up their windows, but unprecedented, really, because while a cyclone has crossed the southeast before, that was half a century ago. We now have 4 million people across the southeast. And when we've seen cyclones hit Queensland before, that's been in the north of the state. We're talking about populations like Townsville, where 200,000 people live. Brisbane alone, 2.5 million people, and a lot of people have never been through a cyclone. And if the cyclone continues to be slow moving, it could hover over land for 6 hours. And that's 6 hours of those destructive winds where the damage can be done, where the rivers rise, where you see flash flooding as well. So this extra time has given people more time to prepare their homes and also emergency authorities to prepare. The Premier giving an update today about where things are at. Let's take a listen.
Exactly where it will hit and when still remains unknown, but all of the modelling continues to show it is coming towards the coast, albeit it has pushed into the early hours of Saturday morning. You will experience at least one of those key 4 challenges: waves, wind, rainfall and or flooding. And it's important that Queenslanders prepare for that.
Now, given the system slowed in the last 24 hours, that's why people are being encouraged to keep up to date, because things can change with that tracking map, and the Bureau of Meteorology is obviously working around the clock to see what happens next. Karina?
OK, Marlena Wapp with the latest there from Brisbane. Our 7 News meteorologist Jane Bunn is here now. Jane, you have new information on how the cyclone is tracking.
Karina, this evening's weather model guidance shows similarities from model to model, which gives us higher confidence. And what they're all saying is that a large part of the coast is in the firing line. Alfred has a variable pace, steadily moving at times, stalling at others. Right now it is 200 kilometres off the coast, but even that far away it is already having an impact. We're seeing winds of of 104 k's an hour on Byron's Cape. Rainfall of more than 300 millimetres. That's at Dorrigo, just inland from Coffs Harbour, and those 12 to 15 metre waves offshore. Let's walk through where it is likely to move from here. It picks up pace overnight, arriving near the Gold Coast tomorrow afternoon. But that's not likely to be the place where it crosses. Instead, it may veer to the right and travel parallel with that coastline, passing just off Brisbane on Friday night and then eventually crossing just north of Brisbane early on Saturday. Now, without a clean, swift crossing, this lets the core of destructive winds and rain affect all of these areas. Now, most likely to be felt from about Lismore right up through to Maroochydore. With it hanging just off the coast for an extended period, it also means the destructive weather does last longer. Alfred may bring 24 hours of danger rather than just a few hours. Now, near the cyclone, the winds increase from damaging to destructive. That's gusts up to 155 k's an hour. Heavy rain leads to life-threatening flash flooding. A dangerous storm tide hits when the cyclone crosses, and even when it has made it ashore, there is still lots and lots of rain to come. I'll have more shortly. Karina.
OK, we'll look forward to your updates throughout the show. Thank you so much, Jane. Well, Jane will be following the weather system and bringing us any developments as they happen. But let's now go to the Acting Commissioner of Queensland Police, Shane Shellappy. Commissioner, thank you so much for your time. Can you take us through the latest warnings around southeast Queensland?
Yeah, thanks, Karina. We've been asking our community, and our emergency warning is to prepare now. Prepare now right from the Sunshine Coast right through to the border. And we've been doing targeting emergency alert messaging into those at-risk areas that we've identified from that storm surge right through all of those council areas. And we've also had our emergency services out door knocking all those residents.
Yeah, it is such a vast area under threat by waves, wind, rain and flooding. What's the immediate priority for police?
Well, right now we've been door knocking. We've door knocked over 9,000, direct at-risk premises, and we're doing that messaging in there. It's really clear that the first priority is we're going to see that wind, but that storm surge area, and we're asking residents in those at-risk zones that we've identified for them to be prepared and be prepared to leave if necessary. And the general messaging to everyone else is prepare now and be prepared for Cyclone Alfred.
Have you been worried at all about the large numbers of people who've gathered to watch the huge swells on Gold Coast beaches?
Well, I have been concerned about that, but the majority of Queenslanders have done the right thing. We've now put out well over 900,000 sandbags in the last couple of days. So we know the majority of Queenslanders in that at-risk area are doing the right thing. They're preparing properly. And I have seen the behaviour. I've seen people, in the water, and today we had a search and rescue for a chap missing off a jet ski. Thankfully, he was found well, but that shows the risk in that area. Now's not the time. We're asking Queenslanders to be aware of their risk, and we don't want them to add the risk. Now's the time to go indoors.
The system's expected to bring a lot of rain. If it's flooded, forget it, is the saying up there. How concerned are you about motorists trying to drive through floodwaters?
Well, the forecast to us is we're going to see up to 800 millimetres of rain over the next couple of days. That's very significant for southeast Queensland. So we'll see both flash flooding, rapid onset of flash flooding, but then we'll see that major riverine flooding through our river systems in Queensland. So, again, that at-risky behaviour, that flash flooding can come on quickly, and we really need motorists, not just motorists, but also other people that might want to go out and walk through or play in those floodwaters. It's extremely dangerous, and our saying is, if it's flooded, forget it.
Acting Commissioner Shane Shellappy, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Karina.
Well, still to come on this special edition of 7 News, we get the latest from the New South Wales SES as residents around Lismore are under evacuation orders, plus the assistance from the Commonwealth with the Defence Force on standby to respond. And 300,000 sandbags delivered to Brisbane, how the Queensland capital is bracing for impact. The situation with Cyclone Alfred is one of the worst case scenarios. It's moving slowly, so it's expected to hit harder and the impacts will be felt for longer. Turning our focus now to the unfolding situation in northern New South Wales. I'm joined now by the Mayor of Lismore, Steve Krieg. Steve, how are those evacuations going?
Karina, to be honest with you, we've probably been caught a little off guard. We were expecting evacuation orders, but probably not until Friday night or Saturday morning, to be honest. So when the news came through, there's been mixed reactions, and a lot of people are questioning why those evacuations are taking place so early. But, you know, it's far better to be more cautious than not cautious enough. And, yeah, people are generally doing the right thing, which is really good. Myself, I'm back where I lived for 10 months with the family that housed us after the 2022 flood. So myself and my family have evacuated. But like I said, we had some things that we were going to do tomorrow that we had to try and cram and get done this evening, so that we tried to minimise our losses. But, yeah, it did catch everyone off guard, I think.
Yeah, you said people have been caught off guard, but the SES has said that they would rather bring in those evacuation warnings sooner rather than later because of what took place in 2022 when Lismore flooded and so many residents lost their homes, that those warnings came too late then.
Yeah, and I totally understand it. No one wants to relive the 2022 disaster and rescuing 2,500 people in the middle of the night in tinnies with no power. It was just, you know, it was scenes out of a horror movie, to be honest with you, in 2022. So it is better to be safe than sorry. And the great unknown with this weather event compared to what we faced in 22 is the wind. And it's been blowing a gale. We've had power lines down already. We've had multiple trees blown over, and we're not even close to getting near Alfred crossing the coast yet. So I'd rather people be safe and frustrated for a day or two than be at risk of not being able to get out and putting others' lives at risk to try and save them.
Yeah, Mayor Steve Krieg, you already sound quite tired. I know it's going to be a few long days ahead of you. Please look after yourself, and I hope your residents stay safe.
Thanks, Karina.
SES Assistant Commissioner Sean Kearns joins me now. Sean Kearns, thank you so much for your time. We know this is an incredibly dynamic situation for your team. Evacuation warnings, they're in place. Can you run us through the affected communities? They need to leave in the next 15 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Karina. Yes, it is a very dynamic situation. And as you would have heard, this is the dynamic situation with Tropical Cyclone Alfred has been changing, and it can continue to change. Hence, we have issued a number of evacuation warnings where we have asked people in a number of communities in the Northern Rivers to evacuate by 9 p.m. tonight. Those communities include areas around Yukai, Finglehead, Tumbolgum, areas around Lismore, Billinudgel, Kyogle, and the like. For people who want to get the updated information of those, that is all on the Hazards Near Me app. So we ask people, if they haven't downloaded it, to download the Hazards Near Me app, and that's got the latest information. As has been said multiple times, this weather situation is actually three dynamic hazards in one. We have a wind event with the cyclonic winds that are going to come. We have storm surge, so we are seeing storm surge, and we've seen the impacts of that today and continuing to impact communities along the coast. And then we have a flooding event through the rain, which is going to be both flash flooding and riverine flooding. So given the nature of that, New South Wales SES has made the decision to ask communities that will be at risk of flooding to evacuate now, because if it was to be delayed, it could be too late.
And how are those evacuations?
Stuck where they are, may not be able to get out.
How are those evacuations going? Have people been able to leave?
Yep.
And I think there are buses that are being provided to move people.
Yes, the information I have is that people are evacuating and are following our warnings, which is fantastic, and we ask people to do that. There are a number of evacuation centres open in the area, and they are available on the New South Wales SES website. We do ask people to follow the directions of New South Wales SES volunteers and our emergency service partners, and follow and do what they're asked to do and take heed of the warnings. And as I said, this is a dynamic situation.
Has the evacuation warning come now so that people have plenty of time to leave, even though this deadline is fast approaching, because of what took place in 2022, where people felt like they got told to leave and it was too late?
Yes, well, we've worked with the community. We've worked with the Bureau of Meteorology, getting the information. Our intent is to get people out when it's safe to do so. We want people with this dynamic situation, with the wind, the storm surges and the rain event, to be able to evacuate while they can, before roads get closed and the like, because there's trees going down, there's power outages that could occur as well. So we want people to take heed of our warnings and evacuate now.
And there are thousands of homes and businesses without power in northern New South Wales. Do you have an update on the number?
I don't have the information at hand, but people can go to their power energy provider to get details of those power outages. And I know we do communicate with the energy providers and work with them about getting power restored to communities. New South Wales SES has also deployed a number of assets to the area to help communications for emergency service personnel to communicate with each other, in addition to extra boats and vehicles and personnel to assist the community.
OK, New South Wales SES Assistant Commissioner Sean Kearns, thank you so much for your time. You have a busy few days ahead of you.
Thanks, Karina.
More than 300,000 sandbags have been sent to Brisbane as the Queensland capital braces for impact. The Prime Minister spoke earlier today on Commonwealth preparations. Let's take a look.
We expect three separate hazards: storm surge and high tides along coastal communities and severe winds as Alfred approaches the coast. Then rainfall and, of course, potential flash and riverine flooding right into the weekend. So it's not just a matter, to put it really simply, it's not a matter of just when the winds die down, everything's then okay. That could be as the waters are rising and flooding is increasing as well. More than 660 schools are closed across southeast Queensland, and more than 280 schools are closed across northern New South Wales. Queensland supermarkets in affected areas will close from today. I can as well update you on the following response from the Commonwealth. We've received a request from both Queensland and New South Wales overnight, or in New South Wales' case in the early hours of this morning, for the early recovery grants of $1 million for affected councils. I'll sign off on those at Parliament House immediately this finishes, and that money will be on its way. We've delivered 310,000 sandbags into Brisbane for distribution across councils, and there is more on their way. 60 ADF personnel and 30 high clearance vehicles are being pre-positioned to go to Queensland to support police and SES volunteers as we move to the recovery phase. They will door knock to identify and support at-risk people. We have approved, in addition to that, 2 ADF search and rescue choppers to support Queensland post-crossing. Yesterday, we pre-positioned heavy lift helicopters from our National Aerial Firefighting Fleet.
That's the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese speaking earlier today. Right now, the AFL should be hosting its season opener at the Gabba. Instead, it's been forced into a major reshuffle. We'll have the new fixture from Chief AFL reporter Mitch Cleary next. And airports are closed, flights have been cancelled. What travellers need to know. Hundreds of thousands of sandbags have been sent to Brisbane, and Nats Levy is there. Nats, there's still huge demand.
That's right, Karina. There is absolutely huge demand here, and it's actually moments away before the sandbagging station at Murray closes. But as you can see, it's still very much a hive of activity. So people have now come to the stage where they're not just filling up bags for themselves, they're actually helping out their neighbours. It's a real sense of community spirit here. And earlier, this is young Luca here. Luca, hi. How long have you been here filling up your sandbags?
Since 7. Dad, how long have we been here? About an hour.
Yeah, so Dad Dom's here too, and he and Luca were on the phone earlier to Nonna, was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did Nonna say?
She was just saying hi, looking at how we were going, checking on us to make sure we were fine and with all the rain and stuff.
That's right, because Nonna's in Sydney, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nonna was just checking in, making sure the family's okay. So Dad Dom is over here. He's still busy. He's not stopped, actually. Dom, can we just stop you in your hard work and your labour for a moment? How many bags do you reckon you've filled up now?
A couple of hundred.
Yeah.
I reckon, yeah.
And you were telling me earlier it's now sort of gone beyond what you need and you're just here helping out the community.
I could have gone out over an hour ago. It's just people need it. That's what we do, right? We all stick together, make sure each other's safe. It's community.
And is Nonna a little bit more relieved?
I don't think so. I think it come Monday morning after she hears the stories, then she'll be a little bit happier.
Do you want to give Nonna a shout out?
Nonna, we love you. We're going to be safe. We'll see you in Sydney in a few months' time. We're not coming down this time. We're staying strong.
Thank you. All right, I'll let you keep busy. So as you can see here, very much a sense of community spirit. So there has been, as of yesterday, 400,000 sandbags out, and that number has well and truly been obliterated now with the demand. Look, the council equipment will start to wrap up from 8 p.m. tonight, but any sand and anything left here will still be available for the community as we start to prepare for Cyclone Alfred. Karina.
Yeah, that demand really is very high. Nats Levy, thank you so much. Well, late this afternoon, Brisbane Airport closed with major travel disruptions right across the country. Let's bring in aviation editor Blake Johnson. Blake, all major airlines are being impacted.
Karina, there are no flights operating at Brisbane, Ballina or Gold Coast airports tonight and will stay that way for a couple of days. They're hoping to get international operations back up on Saturday at Brisbane and Gold Coast airports, but that's still a watch and act. And domestic operations at all three airports are off until at least Sunday. Airlines are offering flexibility on changing flights, but with no certainty around the restart date for those flights, passengers say they're feeling a little stranded.
It's a bit confusing because the weather's not even that bad, so we're like, surely we're fine.
We've never been in a cyclone either before. We're like, oh, yeah, it's like...
kind of like, yeah, just not making a joke of it, but just being lighthearted.
I've got a 2-year-old at home, so I'm trying to get home as soon as possible.
Blake, what does this mean for flight paths?
Well, there's very little activity in that airspace above southeast Queensland. Pilots not allowed to fly through an active thunderstorm, so they have to go around it if they are in the area. Planes are being moved out of the danger zone. Pictures you're seeing now are Qantas jets sitting at Rockhampton Airport, hundreds of kilometres north of the storm. Unclear exactly when they'll get called back in. Qantas is using airports throughout regional Queensland and New South Wales to harbour those spare jets. And we've got Virgin aircraft sitting here at Tullamarine that would ordinarily be ferrying the final passengers home tonight. Melbourne Airport is wondering where it'll put all those spare aircraft. I spoke to a spokesman a short time ago. There's overflow parking down at the hangars. They're considering closing one of the taxiways here with all the spare jets. Interestingly, it's 5 years almost to the day that airlines around the world were doing this exact same thing for a very different reason. I think it'll be a little bit a little bit shorter than the delays we saw during COVID. If there is one good thing to come out of tonight's spare aircraft, it's that there are lots of spare aircraft sitting around the country should something go wrong with flights that are operating. But again, we'll wait and see when those flights resume across the weekend or into next week. Karina?
Yeah, it's a huge logistical operation. Blake Johnson, thank you. Well, right now, the Lions should be hosting Geelong in the AFL season opener in Brisbane. Instead, the league has been forced into a major reshuffle. Chief AFL reporter Mitch Cleary has the latest.
Well, Karina, we now have to wait 24 hours longer to get the 2025 AFL season underway. It'll be this time tomorrow night. Hawthorn travelling to the SCG to tackle the Swans to start the new season. This is after the 2 Queensland games were postponed, so they have found their new time slots as of today. So let's have a look at them now. Brisbane and Geelong, that has been moved to round 3, an easy fix for the AFL given both teams were due to have the scheduled bye that weekend. The Lions were meant to unfurl their flag tomorrow night against the Cats. This is now more likely to happen in the round 2 match when they play the Eagles at the Gabba. As for the Suns and the Bombers, this has been added to the final round of the season, so both teams now have to play 2 matches on that round. The Bombers also play the Blues, the Suns tackle the Port Adelaide Footy Club. The specific time slots will be decided much later in the season, but it does give the AFL extra flexibility to set up a more lucrative final round of the season with some potential finals implications going into that round 24. There had been some questions as to whether the 2 Queensland games could have been moved to Victoria or New South Wales, but as we've seen today with the airline closures, it would have been too difficult for the Lions and the Suns to get back into Queensland. Now, meantime, at the Hawks, they've had their final run on the SCG late today in preparation for that game tomorrow night against Sydney. It'll be the first time just the second time the Hawks have played at the SCG since 2021. Premiership heroes Jack Gunson and Luke Bruce not named for Sam Mitchell's side, while it's likely James Sicily will play in attack. Both Brodie Grundy and Tom Papley have been named for the Swans after recent injury concerns. Former dairy farmer Tom Hanley to make his debut for the Swans. That game live and free here tomorrow night, right on the screens of 7. Karina?
Mitch Cleary reporting there. You're watching a special edition of 7 News right across Australia. When we return, a full recap on today's developments, plus the latest live from the danger zone. And meteorologist Jane Bunn is working on new analysis of the modelling. We'll bring that to you next. Stay with us.
This is 7 News with Karina Carvalho.
Welcome back to 7's special primetime coverage as Australia holds its breath, waiting for tropical cyclone Alfred to cross the coast. The Category 2 storm is now on track to hit from Friday afternoon to Saturday morning. The window for residents to leave Lismore in northern New South Wales has now closed. The SES told locals they needed to evacuate by 9 o'clock tonight. Residents of properties on several streets near the Wilsons River and in the Lismore CBD were told to leave because routes to safety could close. They're being directed to the nearest evacuation centre at Southern Cross University in East Lismore. It's estimated 7,000 people will have evacuated. Well, let's return now to Queensland and to Steve Titmus on the Gold Coast. Steve, waves peaked at more than 12 metres near you today.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right, Karina. And the thing is, since I last spoke to you about half an hour ago, we've come a couple of k's down the road to the marina section here on the Gold Coast. I can tell you the conditions have got worse in the past half an hour. The wind has really picked up. The rain is also howling in. And what we're seeing here in the marina is that all of the boats that normally go out and anchor in the Broadwater, they've brought them into the marina area to protect themselves from the swell that is going to come in. It's now starting to come into the marina. The boats are starting to move around. One of those guys who is on board the boat is a guy called Ollie, who's come up to have a chat to us. Ollie, good evening to you. Great to see you, mate. Tell me, you're sleeping on your boat tonight. What preparations have you made for the cyclone?
Preparations for the cyclone. We've popped a lot of fenders out, lots of lines, re-secured everything and make sure it's all safe to sleep on.
Are you worried at all? Because once this cyclone hits, it's going to howl through this area. It's going to be pretty scary on a boat.
It couldn't be a bit scary on a boat, but I'm not really worried about it, no, because we've secured the boat nicely.
And a lot of boats have come in here now. It's packed, isn't it? A lot of people are on their boats as well, just protecting them.
Lots of boats out here now. A lot of them have come in from the anchorage. There was a lot out there on the anchor, but they have now come into the marina to secure through this cyclone, yeah.
Okay, mate, you stay safe, won't you?
You too. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much for your time. So that's Ollie. He's going to sleep on his boat in the marina here while the cyclone goes through. When it does hit, of course, this area where the boats are, we don't know what is going to be the result. We do know, though, that the winds are going to be very fierce. They're going to be harsh. There is going to be swell coming into this area as well. So the Broadwater is going to be one of the most dangerous places to be during this cyclone. But those people who are on their boats have taken the precautions. They're tying them up safely. They've moved them into the marina areas. And really, Karina, it's a case of let's keep our fingers crossed. Final preparations are underway. Cyclone Alfred is not that far away. We have now moved into that watch and wait situation. It's a nervous time for many because we still don't know really what is going to happen. What we do know is there is going to be damage. To what extent, we wait for that.
Yeah, Ollie might come to regret that decision to sleep on the boat. Steve Titmus on the Gold Coast, thank you. Let's move to Brisbane, and Marlena Wapp is there, where nearly 3 million people are in the cyclone's path. Marlena, homes, transport infrastructure and businesses are all at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Karina. Well, we've seen some new modelling as well from the Brisbane City Council. Tens of thousands of homes were already on that list in terms of the risk of storm surge, and hundreds more were added to that today. So that modelling changing as the system itself changes, Cyclone Alfred, and the councils are endeavouring to keep updating people on that. So that's why you've seen a lot of sandbagging going on, because so many homes are worried about the storm surge that's to come with this system. But people also making sure that they've been taping windows, boarding up windows as well. But people have started trickling into evacuation centres as well. I caught up with one gentleman today and he was telling me that he's just not confident that the house he's in is going to be able to withstand the damaging winds that come with a tropical cyclone. So, he's not only just worried about the flood threat. Now, with the cyclone itself, apart from flash flooding, there's also the rapid river rises that can happen as all those catchments fill up and overflow, particularly if Cyclone Alfred hovers over the coast for up to 6 hours, one of the models was showing, and that would mean that would be a prolonged period for damage to take place. So millions of people in the watch zone itself. We've probably not seen anything like this in terms of Queensland before. We've obviously seen so many tropical cyclones, but in other parts of the state. But we've got millions of people on cyclone watch right now, Karina.
Yeah, Marlena, you would have covered several of those cyclones in North Queensland and far North Queensland over many years now, but nothing in the southeast. You talked about that resident who was worried about his home. Are buildings in the southeast cyclone rated? Can they withstand those wind gusts?
Yeah, look, a lot of them are supposed to be, but there are some of those older homes as well, right across the southeast, and they're going to be tested, that's what a lot of people are worried about as well. So we hear about the flooding, but it's also the damaging winds. That's something else that's weighing on people's minds as well, Karina. And in terms of other cyclones, like we saw Cyclone Debbie some years ago, that was through the Whitsundays, damaging winds there, causing a lot of damage to infrastructure. Further north, we've seen Cyclone Yasi in the past as well, but the population's much more smaller and not as much infrastructure. We're talking about 2.5 million people in Brisbane, buildings in the CBD, residential towers and the like as well. Something certainly very different for Queensland, Karina.
Marlena Watt reporting from Brisbane, thank you. Well, let's go back to meteorologist Jane Bunn now. Jane, you have new analysis.
Karina, we do indeed. It looks like a large part of the coast is going to be in the firing line. Now, Alfred is being cradled by high pressure, that one here that is just down to its south. That is now actively pushing the cyclone towards the coast. Right now, still 200 kilometres offshore, but even that far away already having a localised impact. Those gusts over 100 k's an hour, rainfall over 300 millimetres already, and the 12 to 15 metre waves. As it moves towards the coast overnight and tomorrow morning, it should continue as a Category 2. By tomorrow afternoon, some modelling has it nearing the Gold Coast. Then it may change direction, veering to the right and travelling parallel with that coastline. Now, this is an unfortunate situation as it means it'll impact a lot more people and property. By Friday night, it should be passing just off Brisbane, brushing the islands. Then eventually early on Saturday morning, it may finally cross the coast that is just north of Brisbane, potentially around Caboolture. Now, with this parallel to the coast path, this lets the core of destructive winds and rain affect many more areas, with it hanging just off the the coast for an extended period of time. It also means the destructive weather lasts longer. Alfred may bring 24 hours of danger rather than just a few hours. Moving to the rain effects, and the rain is intense as it approaches, but then it continues after it has actually crossed the coast. And the huge falls aren't just near the cyclone, but they do extend well to the south. Now, modelling does show key areas for rain. That's from Brisbane through the Gold Coast to Byron and inland to Lismore. And then another big area that's here between Coffs Harbour and Port Macquarie. So this has far-reaching impacts. Karina.
Okay, Jane, we'll speak to you again later in the show. Well, the timing of Cyclone Alfred could have a significant impact on federal politics. Political editor Mark Riley has details next. And we'll take a look at how this major weather event could affect the national food supply chain. You're watching 7 News. The last-minute rush for sandbags continues from the Sunshine Coast to Coffs Harbour. Nats Levy is in Brisbane. Nats, there's been furious activity there all day.
Karina, you're not wrong there. There has been furious activity here at the sandbagging station. One of the ones that reopened today here in Brisbane City as Cyclone Alfred has slowed down and people have more time to prepare. So it has been, even in our short time that we've been here, you can see the sand mounds have dropped significantly from people not just filling up sand for themselves, but now helping out, filling out sandbags for others. And one person I'd really love to highlight is Simon here. Simon, thanks so much for talking with us. Tell us, what's your home situation, Simon?
My partner Paige is at home with our 1-month-old twins and our 3-year-old running around. So I'm just coming. I've got my 10, so I'm here to do the next lot, and then hopefully next time my boy can come and give me a hand next time we have to do this, So
yeah, and it's been such a beautiful feeling of community spirit here, like people like yourself now sorted for your house but helping out others, and wife's at home looking after every the kids.
Absolutely. I think the 8:30 feed's about to happen, so I've got to get home soon, but filling a couple of bags before I get out of here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Simon. You keep going, keep busy.
Thank you so much.
Look, and that's Karina, stories that we've been hearing all day since we've been here at the Murray Station. Like you can see, there's still volunteers here. They're actually quite sorted for their own residences, but they're helping out others, filling out bags, which they're only filling, as we've learnt today, halfway so that the soil can act like potting soil. So when it's laid flat, it can absorb all that water. And it's the water that everybody's concerned about. I mean, I just really, while we've got time, I just really want to highlight these guys here. You've been here for at least an hour helping out everybody. You came for your friend. Tell us more about it.
Oh, well, he gave me a call at about 4 o'clock and he was like, don't know, my house might flood. And I was like, all right, around the corner from mine is the sandbag area. So we came over and, we've probably got about 30 and his auntie needs some at Kangaroo Point, so
now you're at the stage of just helping out everyone else. Make sure you get some water and some food, and stretch those muscles. And I got to tell you, Karina, that's been the most amazing thing here. So people are definitely feeling a little bit anxious, you might see, as Cyclone Alfred comes towards Brisbane City. But they're definitely heeding the message. They need to be prepared and not scared, Karina.
Okay, Nats Levy with that update from Brisbane. Well, it's eerily quiet on the Gold Coast tonight. Local resident Phil Smith is in Helensvale. Phil, what's it like where you are?
Look, it's been strange. There's no cars around like you'd normally see. I'm at Westfield at the moment. There's no one in the car park. The rain and wind has really picked up in the last half hour. But very strange.
Yeah, do you feel safe where you are?
I do at the moment, but it is getting heavier and it really has started coming down the last half hour and the wind's sort of blowing the rain sideways now.
Yeah, you can really see that rain coming in behind you. I know you've spent the day preparing your house. What has that involved?
Yeah, look, we've sandbagged up the front door. Luckily, we're at the top of a hill. Wind's going to be a huge problem for us. So it's been a lot of time getting all the indoor furniture, outdoor furniture in, tying things down and securing things around the house.
What about your neighbours? Are they in a similar situation?
Yeah, look, they are. We've got a really good group of neighbours, and like I said, we are at the top of the hill. So we've all been helping each other prepare for getting generators. Anyone needs anything, we're helping each other out wherever we can.
Phil, Queenslanders are used to storms, but are people really anxious about this? Because it's a cyclone that's hitting southeast Queensland. That hasn't happened in half a century.
I think the reality's starting to kick in for a lot of people. Out where we are now at Helensvale, we actually had the tornado come through 2 years ago. So I think out this way people are aware of what can happen. which I know myself's probably really going to wake up to get prepared for this.
And what about closer to the coast? Were you able to see any of those people who were going out and watching as those big waves came in today? And there's just been so much erosion along those Gold Coast beaches.
Yeah, no, look, I've stayed out the back here. I haven't. I've just been preparing for ourselves out here and haven't really had to down that way.
OK, Phil Smith, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. We hope you get home soon and stay safe over the next few days.
Thank you.
The volatility and uncertainty of Cyclone Alfred has left the date for the federal election almost as tough to predict. Anthony Albanese insists his focus is on the lives of Australians and not on the vote. Here's political editor Mark Riley.
Well, for almost the past 3 years since the last election, Karina, Anthony Albanese's been in total control of determining when the next election will be. But now he has to share that power with the cyclone called Alfred. The Prime Minister setting himself up at Canberra's Emergency Management Centre today, where he says he'll stay for the next several days to oversee preparations for the cyclone and the initial response to it, including the government's, having already fast-tracked $1 million payments to the affected local councils to help them in the first instance. But asked by journalists about how this impending weather disaster will impact his election timing, he insisted his mind today is not on votes, but lives. Here's the Prime Minister.
I'm focused, as much as some people here are focused on something else, I'm focused on the needs of Australians. This isn't a time for party politics.
But if this cyclone wreaks the sort of havoc being predicted, Anthony Albanese would be reluctant to call an election this weekend, knowing he would start that campaign as the people of southern Queensland and northern New South Wales were trying to put their homes and their lives back together. But that does narrow his timing. This Sunday and Monday are the last dates he can call an election for April 12 without having a budget. If he doesn't, then there will be a budget on March 25 and an election in May. The timing of our big democratic decision tonight in the hands of the weather. Karina?
Mark Riley reporting from Canberra. Our extended coverage of Cyclone Alfred continues next. You're watching a special edition of 7 News on this Thursday night right across Australia. Cyclone Alfred has generated incredible swell for surfers, but tonight conditions are incredibly dangerous. Around the Gold Coast, we've seen surfers with their boards snapped in half. For others, there's been some fun in the foam. Waves of more than 12 metres have been recorded, with storm surges of up to 1.5 metres expected at the Gold Coast and the Redlands Southern Bay. There's coastal erosion affecting significant parts of the Gold Coast. The effects of the cyclone are expected to be felt right across the country for some time. The price of fruit and vegetables are tipped to soar, with significant disruptions to hit supply chains.
We'll see prices increasing, but it's important to remember that the effect won't just be over the next few days or weeks, it'll be over coming months.
Around $255 million in agricultural production was lost when floods hit Queensland's Lockyer Valley 3 years ago. It sent prices of vegetables, including sweet potatoes, zucchinis and celery, soaring. Before we go, let's check in with Jane Bunn for the latest on where the cyclone is right now. Jane, what more can you tell us?
Well, Karina, Alfred isn't heading in a straight line. Overnight last night, it did a loop-de-loop, so a full circle on itself. Then it picked up pace this morning, rapidly heading for the coast. But then it slowed back again late morning, and it is veering once again. Now, this shows us that Alfred still has plenty of punches to pull and the potential for it to approach the coast, then travel parallel to the coast, just brushing it. That is a serious possibility. That would put a lot more people and property in its path before it eventually crosses just to the north of Brisbane, with the latest guidance showing Caboolture is near its landfall path. But it is the islands that are just off Brisbane that may be hardest hit and under the cyclone for the longest. Now, we've seen the rain and wind accelerating in our crosses to those on the ground over the past hour, and that's because the coast between Byron and Brisbane is now in the zone of gale force winds, and that's with the cyclone still 200 k's off the coast. The cyclone is likely to cross on Saturday morning, but as it heads inland, all of this coastline is put in easterly winds and we've got low pressure nearby. That is a dangerous combination. A huge area likely to see big rainfalls, with some of the rain heading well inland too. Now 400 to even 800 millimetres isn't out of the question with this one, as the rain does continue through the weekend even after that cyclone has moved ashore. So to recap, we are looking at damaging to destructive wind gusts. They're 120 to 155 k's an hour. That's near the core. We're looking at dangerous storm tide, especially if that crossing does occur at high tide. We're looking at heavy rain that is leading to life-threatening flash flooding, and then major flooding of rivers and catchments. That's in the days to come. With all of that water, it's got to go somewhere. So it will be interesting to see where the cyclone is, how close to the coast in those first light of dawn that we'll have in the morning, Karina.
OK, Jane, great to have had your analysis tonight. Thanks for being here. And that's where we leave this special edition of 7 News. Sunrise will have live coverage from 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. for our Queensland viewers. To residents in Queensland and northern New South Wales, please stay safe. For now, from the 7 News team, take care and good night.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.